All right, let's jump into things. Where we at? It is 9:49 on 1st of May. So here we go. Bang, first of the month. Wow, we're ticking along here, aren't we? So I guess yesterday, you could sort of probably chalk a little bit of that USD buying up to what they sort of say end of month flows. I'd like to have a sort of bit of a better idea about where they're getting sort of what these sort of directional things are for these end of month flows. I mean, I'm always sort of hearing it's just sort of secondary, which I don't particularly prefer with things because it always sort of means you're kind of like behind the eight ball. I mean, not that it's super relevant, but that's why I sort of really stopped sort of trading shares, uh, or at least maybe the spec end of shares, because I know nothing about mining and I know nothing about drill results. And I didn't like having to ask people to sort of be able to ascertain this sort of stuff. So anyway, whichever, whatever. I'll sort of start off with the news, see what we can sort of pick apart today. So we had a bit of data out overnight. So core PCE came in a little bit weaker than expected, only touch, but obviously down at that 0% there. We also had it revised up previously. It's funny, actually, I was just looking at equity markets and these things just kicked off. Where's the flash? I just pulled up a chart. This on here. You can see, this is just taken a few moments ago. Whoops, put that on the screen. Um, it was around this 12, because you can't see the times on this one here and that, but this is just all the majors. So, you got ASX over here, Wall Street Cash, US 500, whatever. You can see they all had a nice big rally. They all kicked off from 12 o'clock last night as well, these rallies. So this little candle here, 12 o'clock. This little candle here, 12 o'clock. And market really seemed to enjoy that. So interesting, sort of how they sort of reacted to that, because they were super strong sort of reactions there. Um, Sort of other bits of data coming through there. You got pending home sales. They're up, actually up massively. So, it says like the way that this Forex factory will work is sort of like green numbers obviously beat expectations, but also it's not just sort of like above, because obviously some things you want to have, off the top of my head, sort of think of things that may want to have lower, but basically if it's more positive for the currency, it'll be green. If it's negative for the currency, obviously missing expectations or going in below, for as you can see, is revised down from 8 to 7. Negative for the currency comes in at red. So, you've got a bit more sort of personal income. You got personal income up, you got spending up. These are both positive things for the US dollar. Um, Oil, don't really sort of trade this, so I guess they're positive for oil. Oil, I actually just covered for a mate previously, and that support that sort of gave way, I was looking sort of back in 2021, that's been holding since. So yeah, sort of quite a long time thing there. So I imagine that'll be sort of quite a difficult sort of level to get through, which I will also brush on because it's relevant to sort of what's happening with gold at the moment, albeit on a smaller scale. It's really sort of defining itself a line at the moment. So I'll get to that in a moment. Apart from that, we had GDP out, so we had geez, a little bit of a drop down there with GDP as well. So look, again, it's pretty much. Oh no, we got a little bit. I'm not quite sure the index and that. I'd have to sort of look at the two here. Um, okay, interesting. So that tends to have the most impact, the advanced, but and then advanced index. Okay. So a little bit of a mixed bag of sort of data coming out there. Obviously, sort of this sort of advanced GDP index quarter on quarter to the top side, sort of beat that, and then sort of your normal sort of advanced GDP and that coming in negative. So it's not exactly riveting sort of data reading here. But okay, so tick along. So look, end of the day, basically what we're seeing is like DXY is sort of dragging itself up. It needs the data to sustain the move, because every time we see it sort of gear up a couple of levels, it gets smashed back down. But the buyers are still coming. We're putting in higher lows, and it is grinding up on that right sort of shoulder of that head and inverted head and shoulders. So should we get some actual sort of consistent positive data, and not this mixed bag of stuff, I think it's setting up for the idea that we could see a little bit of a sort of further push on DXY. So I'll get to this as we hit the charts. Coming forward this morning, so 10 o'clock, 5 minutes, we've got sort of Trump talking, so see how this sort of impacts the market. Generally, a couple of little sort of nice little headlines will come out and market may sort of fly around a little bit. Bank holiday in China, for what that's worth, we'll see how that sort of impacts, sort of move things around. Got a couple of screens here. Whoops, no, I don't want to close the whole video. Um, yeah, so see how this sort of impacts sort of China, so the yuan through today. All right, let's tick along. So big one for the day, obviously BOJ there. So, expected to just sort of hold rates and that. Interesting to sort of see what they say with the statement. These sort of ones, for some reason, I don't know, you get this with China and with Japan, but they seem to be the only ones that I can think of off the top of my head that are just tentative. Like they don't want to give a time that these things are going to come out. Typically, you'll see sort of people say like, oh, it's going to, it comes between 12 and 1 or whatever, 12 and 1:30 and that, but there's no definitive time that they go, okay, we're going to release the report, which is, I don't know. No, I don't know what the actual reasoning behind that kind of thing is, but whatever. Look, you've got the expectation that it's going to be sort of held flat. If you see a bit more of a hawkish tone to it all, and the sort of them sort of powering on with the idea that they want to sort of increase potentially sort of start to increase the rates, this could be weighing on US dollar. If we see a bit more of a dovish talk, this could be another tick in the camp of DXY sort of alleviating and moving up a little bit there as well. So I think sort of like, yen, albeit a weak individual or has been sort of super weak individual currency, the actual economy is very strong and plays a very big role. So, this has got the ability to have a broader market sort of ramifications as well. So it's certainly something to sort of keep an eye on. And as I said, I think that'll be between, probably I'm tipping around 1 o'clock is probably when we're sort of going to be seeing that. Moving forward, we've got other bank holidays all over the place in that. All through Europe, we've got what are the holidays over there? Labor Day. Okay. So yeah, you got Labor Day, so you got a bunch of European bank holidays over there. You got press conference, that's all day. So look, it's apart from the BOJ, there's not really a great deal sort of coming out. I suppose we've got the trade balance in for Aussie coming up, and that's actually tipped to be up. So we'll see how we go. But yeah, well, it's not really a massive market mover, this bit of data. Something to pay attention to, obviously, give it a tick. But it's not sort of like, oh my God, here we go. This one's going to sort of jump at 20 or 30 points necessarily off the bat. Aussie has been smashed and then sort of bouncing back up. So quite a frustrating, actually, that's put lightly, very frustrating pair to be trading recently. So in and out is definitely the way to go. But every time you think you've actually sort of got something you can just sit on, it just reverts back up. So yeah, it's yeah, quite frustrating. Moving forward, commodity prices, not really a mover. I've got a bit of sort of UK data, PMIs and that sort of coming out, flat 44. So still in a weaker sort of side of things. Unemployment claims, been a snoozer for months. Moving forward, we got ISM PMIs, and again, this could be something that could move the market. So 12 o'clock, this one's sort of coming out. Look, again, what you're looking for with US dollar is just some strong data. Any sort of beat of expectation is going to be met with a flurry of buying, in my opinion. What we have sort of seen is even with these weak bits of data recently, the market's still buying it up. It's getting those so there's going to be the two moves. There's going to be the knee-jerk reaction, weak data, they sell it down. Buyers step in and say we don't care, and we buy it up and buy it up and buy it up. Just on that note as well, we also had ADP overnight. Wow, I didn't actually see this. That is a big miss there, 62,000. So this is the private sector of the sort of jobs created kind of thing, but that is a massive drop off. So the expectation was to see a sort of drop, but obviously that sort of came well below. Cool. All right. So yeah, look, a little bit of data, but the main sort of things, BOJ, Euro session expected to be quite quiet just due to all the bank holidays. And then sort of ISM, I guess tonight, if we do see a stronger number here, this could be something that could accelerate the US dollar. All right, and onto the charts. So we'll start off with DXY because, as I've obviously just been talking about it, this is what I'm talking about at the moment. You're seeing that the market is selling it down, endless bits of sort of garbage data coming out, and the market just goes, "Yep, that's cool, sweet, bang, buy it up, sell it down, buy it up," and it is just grinding its way back up here. So you may have sort of heard me sort of talk, like I say, jokingly, but we talk about fanboys. This is with a fanboy kind of action with DXY, where they don't care if the data's bad, they'll just buy it up. And they'll buy it up and buy it up and buy it up and buy it up. And now we're sort of seeing this thing come back up. This is really sort of coming up and testing this line here now. We can see this gives us, in just this little short term, oops, direction. Well, it seems to do this. That's why I have doubles on these things sometimes. Boom, boom. All right. Anyway, talking to myself. Um, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the fifth touch, sort of completing this sort of falling resistance here. So I would say that sort of like up above here, we've got a couple of swing highs and that. You want to sort of get up and close up around that 99, 99.90. I mean, obviously break above, 99, 95, 100, whatever. But I'd say even just above these first two swing highs, where we've got this little alert, I would say that's probably sort of a good indication that this thing's going to break out. Obviously, we want to see this higher move up over here, take out these sort of horizontals. That'll be the full sort of confirmation. But basically, you take these things in steps. So up above these swing highs, then we're going to be looking for a test of this horizontal. Up above the horizontal, now we can move all this along. It sort of really brings in, not that this is going to be the sort of definitive sort of top of things, but it does make things a little bit more difficult because all of a sudden you're falling into your next little battleground of where you may sort of potentially see some sellers. But because this is only a small move, and obviously it's doing a lot of work to get up here, if you break all these levels, you're not going to stop after 20 points. Like it's just, you know what I mean? If you've done all the work to get out of here, unless it's a failed breakout, as in candle up and then that. That's how you could see this actually come into effect. But I think more likely what you're going to see is this. These smaller little resistance areas, wherever this is. This is, if we actually sort of step out a little bit, you can probably see this a bit better. As I said, this isn't necessarily going to be the level, but it is something that I'm particularly looking at because we have seen sellers here, we have seen sellers here, seen sellers here, sellers here. So it stands to reason that most likely you're going to see some sellers here. And what you can do with this area here is use this as a potential sort of, okay, this is a breakout, look for your back test holds, that becomes your confirmation line. I mean, look, this could also, depending on where this goes, do something to this sort of effect. Yeah. And we could sort of say this, but this sort of big falling resistance, put an alert on it. Breakout falling resistance and that. So, potentially we could see a breakout, see sellers come in here, so we have seen them on this line previously. See if, like, a retest of this level across here, this 104, 103, 104 kind of area holds. And if we see them hold this level and then take out the higher high there, wherever this high is, if the high comes up here, that's the level. If it comes to this line, that's the level, whatever. Wherever this first push goes to and then comes back to, that's where we're looking for sort of, you want this level to hold. For this to hold, higher high, and then we start the squeeze. And then we start to look at the other levels that we think this thing could come up to. One thing I have sort of noticed, because I watch a lot of other people's analysis just to sort of see what the broader market's thinking. A lot of people obviously myself included, have been calling this 102 kind of levels. And my feeling with this is that kind of almost like, because it's not sort of so much that, okay, yeah, I mean, sometimes if you've got analysis and somebody else that you know is doing analysis and you've got the same levels, that's great. It's confluence and that, particularly if they're using a different method to sort of find it, because the chart's all the same. They just chop it up differently. And, if you both have reached the same kind of sort of consensus, it's good. It's a nice little bit of sort of confirmation. However, when you see so many people, it's like, you're watching all these sort of people doing their analysis online and all this kind of sort of stuff, and there's so many people are looking at this 102 level. It makes me a little bit cautious because, obviously, as cliche as it is, nothing's easy. This trading's not easy. Goes to 102. This is just a potential scenario that I'm talking about. Everybody's looking at this 102. They start piling on shorts. Well, what is the market going to do then? Bang. It's just going to smash all those people. If it's too obvious and too many people are trading it, well, that's the perfect time for them to absolutely blow all that extra liquidity out of the water, really rocket it up high, squeeze them. Like I'm talking, old school sort of DXY moves, these sort of things that you see through here. We've seen it time and time again. Look at this move up through here. How much of the market was like, look, broken the lows, get short, get short, get short, and then bang, and it's squeezed up. I remember trading this, and this is why I say about the bloody fanboys. Because, I remember sort of trading this points there. Ah, yep, here's the level. Yep, that's definitely where it is. And you know what I mean? Look, it's going to go all the way up to the highs. I mean, I'm sure I probably did the same thing, at these levels here. Retested these levels. Oh, here we go. No, boom, they go higher. Fail, bang. That surely can't go past these highs. Goes higher. Won't go past these highs. Goes higher. And it just does not provide a level for anybody to get off. So you just get absolutely squeezed out. And that's what it is. This is what a short squeeze is. You've broken the lows here, broken the lows here, broken the lows here. Well, everything in the textbook says big, massive lower, lower. Look at this momentum coming into it. This should go down here, in theory, in textbook land. But what do? They turn around and rocket it all the way up here. So back to what I'm sort of talking about here is the fact that we're sort of seeing a lot of people say, hey, look, 102, that's an area, and then we're going to start shorting it down, and US dollars screwed, and all this kind of sort of stuff makes me cautious. And I've seen and been on the wrong side of the fanboys, the US dollar fanboys, a few times, and this is why I sort of it makes me cautious, makes me think that this thing is such a beast, such a battle cruiser of a thing to turn around. I mean, if you look at this period up over here, you know what I mean? This thing does not turn around on a dime. I mean, even just from this last area up here, there's 2 months just at this little top area here, not to mention the couple of areas where it was trying to hold on, and then break down. So, we're not quite there necessarily in terms of length of time. I mean, down here we're at, 19 days. But point is, because it's so much effort to turn around, it's like a ship. It can't turn on a dime. And it's making its effort, making its effort. And this is why, if you break this thing down and get into the lower time frames and that, and you see that, they try to sell it down, they buy it up, sell it down, they buy it up, sell it down, they buy it up. They are absolutely sucking out the last of everybody that wants to try and sort of get these sort of lower levels here. So I sort of feel that if, particularly with this confirmation move up over here, first of all, you got to get above this horizontal. Second of all, you got to get the back test. Third, you got to get the higher high. But if you've done all this work down here, all this breakout move over here, it seems a bit of a wasteful sort of thing to then just sort of run 100 points and then maybe sell back down and continue down over here. I've heard a lot of calls 96 and yada yada and all this kind of stuff. Look, anything's possible. What you've also got as a possibility is where it sort of comes up here, it does a quick move like this and then very fast move back up like that. If you see this scenario where it sort of does this all this work and then does one last little flush takes out all the lows down here, but then the recovery is up here. If this little setup comes and it goes right down, right back up, this is going a lot higher. I'm not saying that I believe that this is necessarily to happen, but you need to be aware and plan for these kind of scenarios, because if that setup happens, this is what's called the, where it's gone, little drawing tool, would be the high heel bottom, like this. These things are very big, because it's sort of like everybody that's got long positioned here, they wipe them all out, and then they come bring it straight back up, and that will generally explode up to the top side there. Anyway, again, look, that's broader kind of view. What we're sort of looking for in the short term, above this falling resistance, you can see that the sellers are pushing it back in, pushing it back in, pushing back in. If we see a little push up, we saw a tiny little gap up this morning. It looks to have closed already. Look, I would say probably it's still a little bit of a move down, maybe the top side of this body fill over here, and then a push through. But if we get above this wick, so let's just put a little alert here. Above that short-term falling resistance just there, I think that's going to open us up to the neckline test. Neckline test opens us up to the main test. Of course, you got to do these little levels before you get to the big level up over here. But at the moment, it is looking like it's, they don't really care what the data is. Good, bad, whatever. Bad, they'll sell it down. They'll still buy it back up. That's what we're seeing sort of each time here. So look, I'm not sort of saying that it's going through in the next 10 minutes, but I wouldn't be surprised if we do, particularly if we get a push through here. Whoops. This is the next level that we'd like to sort of see what happens. So they're the points of interest for today. Through this area, onto a bigger test up here. To this kind of effect. Look, you just got to cover everything, and could go bang down over here. The data doesn't support it. It is grindy, but these are quite deep pullbacks, and you know what I mean. It's a slightly different to the old sort of saying of up the stairs, down the elevator thing, where it goes and then boom. Generally, when you see those kind of moves, where it's like up the elevator, down the stairs, it'll be sort of like these kind of straight up moves. Maybe not in one candle, but they're just sort of like one moves. Excuse me. Not back and forth. Back and forth is people take profit, people buy up, people take profit, people buy up. So there's a healthy exchange of positions through something like this. If this is all blue, in my case, like all positive, and there's no pullbacks along here, yeah, that would be up the stairs, down the elevator to me. At the moment, I feel this is more sort of just exchange. You know what I mean? None of the data says, hey, look, this is a great buy, but for whatever reason, fanboys are buying it up. So that's why we're using these little levels here to sort of confirm things. Onto gold. So gold, we have a nice little sort of retest here. Look at this. I actually sold into this. I took some profit down here, sold into it up here, then took profit down here, kind of thing. So, you know what I mean. I'm still cautious. It's funny, like I took profit on this yesterday. I actually sort of sent a message to my father and I said, take a profit on this. Maybe this is going to be the big one where it never revisits this level. But more often than not, and I do believe this, more often than not, it's not. It's not the big move that moves away and sort of never revisits there. And if it is, well, so be it. Like what I mean. I'm sure there's people that are short up here that are still holding. Good on them. But the point is that more often than not, particularly with FX and with commodities, you'll see looks good, bang. And look, this was a big bounce. This was $50 or something. Yeah, $52. There's a big bounce up there. So anybody that was short all the way down through here came up, took them all out, and boom, now we're back down over here. So unless you're running with wide stops, you're not really, you're probably just going to get chopped out. I mean, at the moment, it's in this consolidation. This is interesting how well it respected the top side of this triangle. Test, test, bang, sold down, retest to the cent kind of thing there, and then bang, resold down again. So look, it's opening up, it's on a little bit of pressure this morning. This is a very strong line here. So basically, maybe we could see a bit clearer on this one. Let's stick with this one here. So what I'm sort of feeling with this is obviously sort of we're seeing mainly consolidation. It's hanging down around the bottoms, which puts more pressure onto the idea of getting a break. But the thing is, these bounces from here, from here, from here, from here have been very strong. I mean, if we look at this, we discover that was like 52 bucks. This bounce effectively 85 bucks. This bounce effectively 72. This bounce 106. You know, these are big bounces from this line. So the buying pressure is pretty strong and pretty good at this level. That's great. You know what I mean? There's a couple of people that have bought this time and time again, and it's worked really well for them. But the thing is, if this thing breaks through here, if we see something like this, the way that I see this, one, there's going to be a bunch of stops under here. That's my feeling. Because, you know, you bought it here, that's great. You bought it here, put the stops under low. You bought it here, put the stops under low. Even if you bought it through here and you're giving yourself a wide stop, you put your stops underneath here. So I think sort of certainly if you get through this level here, we're going to see it sort of break down. Interestingly enough, we're on the top side of that original channel. I'll get to that. I'll finish this thought first. But the thing is, so if you look at this in just this context, you're in the middle of a range. So let's try to get this thing across. In the middle of a range, sorry, you're in a range, you're down the bottom end of it. It puts the pressure on the idea that you're going to break through. We've seen this has been a very strong buy area all the way through. Once this breaks, if this breaks, if, when, whatever, I'm looking downside, so I'm saying when. If this breaks, two things. One, you're going to have a bunch of stops, so you're probably going to expect a pretty strong volume candle down. I don't think this thing's just going to dribble out the bottom. I think this thing's going to go boom and it's going to drop like a stone. Whether this happens now or whether this bounces up, whether it comes back up here, whatever. Whenever this level does break, I imagine it to be quite a strong volume move down. That's the stops because people are just getting out of their positions and it'll go and shoot back down. So that's one thing I expect. Another thing that I expect is that it'll be quite a strong level to get back through. Meaning, you know, not everybody's going to have their stops here. You are going to have a portion of them, yes. But if you're buying this thing, 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 not everybody's trading short term. Not everybody's trading what I've got drawn on the charts. You know, people are willing to give it a little bit more leeway. I mean, you got to think we're still at the 50% retracement of just this move, let alone, you know, where we've come from. I'm only talking from this is just from start of April. You know, there's still people that are trading, you know, well, there's a lot of people trading absolutely everything. And also, this is breakaway channel. It's not the main channel. Yeah, there's people that are trading like, so, you know, from the start of the year. Of course, there's people trading from the start of the year. But, you know, if we have a look at the fib from start of the year, so it's about the start of the year here. That's your higher time frame. So if you look at the higher time frame there, I mean, what do we just pass the 23 or something? You know, 23. So again, look, this is a nice little confluence lining up here. I've just noticed that the 61% retracement is three things. It's the previous highs, it's the 61% of the move from April, so the big explosive move. It's also 38% from the start of the year. the more things that line up to one level, the more I sort of am like, yeah, bang, okay, that's a great place to take it, and more likely we're going to see a reaction from that level. But getting back to what I was saying, that once you break this level, not everybody's going to be hitting their stops. There are going to be a bunch of stops here, I believe. It's going to go down quite quickly. But what I'm thinking is that there's a whole bunch of people that are buying it here or putting this, they're saying, hey, look, if it breaks this level, I'm just going to, this is why it'll move down. If it should have moved back up, I think that people are going to go, hey, look, I got that one wrong. Let me just sell it out. Okay, actually, I've got to pause this because gold's moving. All right, so I just had to manage a few positions there. So we are seeing it come down, test these big sort of supports here. So what I'm saying is that people will let this thing run through. If it comes back up here, they're going to go, look, you know what, got this one wrong. I'm going to get out. That's going to add to this leg here. So we get the first move, which will come down here, which will be the stops. You'll get people sort of buy it back up, big confluence here. Let's go, we'll just buy back up. We're going back up over the top over here in their mind. I think if you break this level here now, it's been so strong through this area here, it's going to take a couple of efforts to get back through. So if you're trying to trade a bounce and trying to go long from underneath here, I think this is going to be a price area where you're going to get smacked in the head, or the price is going to get smacked in the head a number of times, which is going to lead to this. And this is what I was saying in terms of structure. If we see that then continue and push back down, that's when you open up to sub 3,000. But, it all starts with this move coming through here. We've seen that little drop down now. It's testing under these levels. What was the actual wick low here? So 59 was the wick low. So if we get onto a lower time frame, I might be able to see it a little bit more. But as you can see, it's certainly pushing down into this level here. The fact that it retested the underside of this triangle, the fact that it looked like it was could have gone here, they flared it up here. This just happens to take out all these highs over here. This is a squeeze. Anybody short through here, anybody short here, anybody short here, they're all squeezed out. On with the show, bang, moves down through here. I have a feeling this will sort of see a little move down here. So again, look, I think sort of 3160 is looking like a good target. Not necessarily going to go in one move, but I think, we could see sort of, as I said, like probably a little bit of a move here, and then move down towards 3160. Silver. Silver was actually a great trade. Silver and copper were my sort of bomb trades yesterday. By bomb, I mean good, not bombing out. We're seeing it actually, and this is a good example, just after speaking about gold there, this is two things here. One, this is a very typical setup for silver. Straight line, higher highs, bang, bang. Once it goes, boom, broke. Came down here. This is the point of interest that we've been sort of talking about, this horizontal line. We expected a move here, hence this little arrow coming back up here, and this little path up here. So what we're sort of seeing here is support, 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 support. This is under 1 hour, so it's a lower time frame to deal with this one. Lower time frame, support, 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 broke, came all the way back down. I put a post on X last night saying, this is where I expect some reaction. And what did it do? Bang, shot back up here. Where did it get stopped in its tracks? That same horizontal. And this is the point that I mean in the sense of, yes, support, you're buying it, you're buying it, you're buying it. It's held so many times. I'm so great. I'm an awesome trader. Oh no, I got it wrong. Bang. Comes up here. Chance to get out for zero. Bang. Give it to me. I'll take it. And that adds to the selling pressure, which pushes down. Doesn't mean this is going to hold forever. There could be a buying pressure that pushes up here, but it puts more of the idea because remember, you got to think where you are, what leg are you in? We're in the down, find support, up, find resistance. Resistance, previous support level. We're in this leg here now. Is this going to give us a higher, whoa, no, there we go, gold. That is bang. See? This is what I'm talking about. Stops. That just dropped down to 44. It just dropped 16 bucks in 2 seconds. I've got to pause this. All right. So I just had to manage those. But quickly, because obviously we're flicking back to gold, look at this on this low time frame. This is what I'm saying. So this big red area is where we thought the stops were. 2 minute, 1 minute. Look at this candle here. In 1 minute, 65 down to 44. That's 20 bucks down in 1 minute. And obviously, bang, profit, 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 bang, bounce back up, boom, come down here. So take out the wick here, and we're probably going to see quite a deeper. So this is stops, wick, low, continuation, but whatever. So yeah, this is it's actually quite good to have it sort of while sort of recording this stuff. But yeah, I mean, this is the thing. It's like technical analysis and also price flow. It's the same stuff over and over and over again. And you just the trick is to be able to identify where these things are, and having seen it enough times, be able to go, look, this is what I expect to see. And this is exactly as I called it before. This is where your stops would be. Fast move down, bounce back up. So now the confirmation is going to be with a lower low. All right, back onto what we were talking about. We're talking, and definitely not on a 1 hour. Let's go on to, oh, sorry, 1 minute. Silver. So silver, same sort of thing that we're seeing play out here at the moment. So, rid of these. Moved back up, tested that level. There was support, now it's resistance, and they're selling back down into it. So now the leg we're in is this one here. Are we going to see the focus is on this 32.20 level? We saw the buyers come up here, profit taking come in, whichever, whatever, however you want to cut it up. They sort of moved it up from here. It's now driving back towards it. Should you break this level, it's support a few times here. Not going to break on the first attempt. Move back up, comes back down to the second effort here. There's a good chance that this will move and this will come down lower. We look at 31.50. Because if we go back to flipping back and forth between these charts, look at the price action here. Moved down, shot back up, came back down, revisited the lows. What happened when it took out the lows? Absolutely dumped down and got creamed through the bottom there. So, we're probably looking at the same for silver. Push back up, test here, come back down. It's holding up a little bit better than gold because obviously gold's already taken out its respective lows. But it is moving down over here. So should it take out this 32 level, yeah, you got a little wick over here, whatever, deal with that. But should it sort of break through there, then we're looking, down to the next level. Get off the screen, come on, mate. Looking down to the next main levels. So you got a little bit of sort of, so if we just sort of chuck in a couple of horizontals here, we got one 31.85, but realistically, I can't actually see a lot of support through this area here, but I'm going to call 31.40 as probably the next level here. A little bit of previous price action, though we did see it shoot through here. This is your major breakout level, so let's just move that down there a little bit more. 31.30, I would say. Look, they're the two levels, 31.85, 31.35. Should we break 21.20? So let's just move this up. Actually, no, I'm going to keep it here. And taking our wick lows daily supports, and we're going to be targeting 31.85, then 31.35. Every time to remind me. Cool. I can see how those ones sort of move down now. So just monitoring this gold thing. All right, back to you. All right, just took a little bit of gold off there and that because end of the day we've got to get paid. So little bits and pieces, see if we can get those runners to run down a little bit further. But certainly, it is putting it in the sort of setup here where we had this bounce channel. It's grinded up the underside here, and now it's breaking down lower here. So I think if you take out this horizontal, that's really going to open you up. This is only a short move here. So again, is a smaller thing. What we could potentially see is something to this effect to sort of come down. But I think ultimately you're probably targeting 31.40 to be on the safe side. All right, tick along. And one that is absolutely defying everything is the Aussie. I'm on the short side of this. I banked through this period here. And then, of course, this is why we bank. It comes back up. It's absolutely frustrating as all hell to try and trade this thing. It is just unrelentingly annoying. It's coming down. It looks like it's failing, all the way up over here. Look, it's still right up the top over here. As I said, I put this rounded top on the other day, and I don't trade rounded tops, but let's do this and give it a little bit more breathing room, maybe. like this, maybe? I don't know. Like, as I said, I don't trade rounded tops, but this could kind of work, maybe. I don't know. I'm more of the horizontals and the hard sort of diagonal lines. But the point is, it's annoying. It keeps coming up. Same sort of thing. If we do come down over here, you're going to get slammed. There's a lot of effort trying to hold the Aussie up over here, looking for this big breakout. We saw a big rejection as it came into this level here. So I mean, look, the buyers are there. They're happy to take it there. But they're not sort of there enough to sort of overcome this stuff. And this is the point that I'm sort of making, that Aussie can be strong. You can see a hawkish RBA if they decide to to buy US dollar across the market. Well, I'm sorry, but Aussie, that's going to be a handbrake on Aussie. It's not going to break out to 60. It can't defy US dollar strength. Put it that way. I mean, of course, it's against the US dollar here, but if DXY, so if they're buying the market up against the rest of these guys, the basket of currencies, well, they're going to buy it against the Aussie as well. Maybe not in the same levels. I mean, that's why all the charts are different. But the thing is, if they're buying US dollar across the market, Aussie is not gonna be immune from that. Not to mention that sort of you got to look at under what conditions are they buying. So just got to keep managing these positions. All right, I'm back again. So I had to manage these positions. This is the thing, sort of like it doesn't matter when these moves come. When people don't sort of understand trading, and or at least the sort of FX sort of stuff, they're like, try and sort of limit your times. There's no on and off, like as in, well, I mean, in theory, yes, there should be, but if the moves are happening, if the volume's coming in, if the market's reacting, and there's profit to be taken, it's not the time to say, hey, look, I'm doing something else. I wanted to go to the beach, or I wanted to sleep. Well, that's fine. You do that. You know what I mean? But it's not the way that this works. If it calls for it and you have to drop everything and act and react, well, that's it. Because if you don't, you're going to pay the price for it, or you're going to miss out. So anyway, so gold, silver, just as I just covered this as well. Bang, smash back down to those lows. That was a great sort of move down coming in there. So look, it was held a couple of times through here. It's come back down. It's held, trying to hold it again. So you can see, double dip into it here. Is this going to sort of bounce up and then come through here? I closed a couple of positions here. What I'm looking for is one little bounce, maybe up to, say, this smaller level here, and then a move like this. So where does that give us? So if we get a move up to 32.53 and then a push through there, that'll be it. Bang, 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 like a ball that dribbles towards the edge, and then drop through. That's what I'm sort of looking for. So, I mean, this thing could just go boom and plummet through here, like I was sort of saying earlier. But should we get another move back up to 53 here, I think that's go time to sort of really look for the major break to come down to these levels over here, mid to low 31s. Gold settling down underneath its support as well, as we can see through here. So that initial move stops, bang, bounce. And have a look on the lower time frame, bounce back up, retest, move back down. Again, take out that wick. That's going to open it up, and we're looking for sort of further downsides through the session with gold. Typically, these are all analysis videos, but of course, at the moment, as I just said a second ago, if the action's happening and the market's moving, well, that's it. You got to sort of combine the two. Anyway, back to what I was saying with Aussie. So as I said, look, maybe a rounded top over here. I think regardless of it all, you could just kind of say these are the levels that we're looking at here. Like, cutesy to sort of say rounded top and all this kind of stuff. That's not how I trade. It's not a typical thing that I do. I just sort of do this and say breakout box. I would say below 63.20s, above 64.50s. That's where you're going to see your direction. Hence these arrows up over here. And this is the thing, sort of with technical analysis, you know, it's the same chart in front of everybody. It's just how you decide to sort of cut it up and read the play. And this is why I was saying earlier that sort of, you know what I mean? If I'm sort of watching somebody, or, somebody says, hey, look, this is what I'm looking at, and they're looking at some levels and they correspond with mine, And then particularly if they're using a different way to sort of cut it up, like Elliott waves or whatever, it shows that there's other sections and segments of the market that are looking at those levels at the same time. So it gives that's what confluence is. And, you extrapolate that out because not everybody's trading just those two ways, but there's a large portion of people that would be trading and looking at the same levels I am, large segment of people of the market looking at these other analysis things. And if they're all grouping and targeting towards one point, like I showed with gold before, the 38% retracement of this year's move, the 61% retracement of the move from April, the previous highs. I think that's a good excuse or a chance that we see, obviously, a big reaction at that level there as well. So gold's really looking to sort of continue here a little bit where we are at 1044. I haven't even technically got the sort of big volume in for the market yet. So if this thing reverses, I'd be very surprised. I think that last ditch move up was the reverse. So with Aussie, look, this level can now be moved to here. Buyers were buyers were holding it, let it go, they became sellers. Second effort, they became sellers. Third effort, they're still sellers. They're moving up into this level here. It's unrelentingly being bought up, despite US dollar being bought up, which is interesting. Plus metals being sold down, interesting. Copper, obviously, I'll get to in a sec. Copper was an awesome trade yesterday. That's probably one of my best sort of trades, particularly in quick succession. I just hammered that one. Nice weight, nice execution, well managed. Um, which are the three secret sauce bits of a good trade. So anyway, look, on with Aussie. If we take out these wick highs and shit above sort of like say 64.18, so let's just move it up a little bit here, give us a little bit more. No, yeah, put it above here. So we can see, obviously, moved up here, sold down, come here, sold down. The buyers are moving up their bid each time. So you can see buyers here, buyers are here, buyers are here. Are they just going to boom and steamroll and come out the top here? If they do, then we're looking for the body fill back up here at 30. And then we're really getting into the higher time frame sort of resistance areas here. And it's really putting it in the pressure that may sell out and may break out. We will have to sort of wait and see what happens with that. But as I said, I think if US dollar gets a bit of a sort of a carry on and we see that sort of falling resistance break, I think Aussie's going to drop back down. And particularly if we see continued pushes with DXY, I think Aussie's going to come back down over here. I do believe this is more, look, you could say it's distribution, but in context of everything, it's such a low. But maybe this is the best level it's going to get for a long time. If this thing sort of sits up here, and if this is distribution, this is people just getting out of it, getting out of it, getting out of it, getting out of it for anything and everything that they can before it absolutely gets absolutely obliterated. That's the feeling if this thing does come down. So it means this buy zone might be a little bit sort of, lucky sort of thing for it all. But we'll have to sort of wait and see. There's got alerts going off everywhere. Stops being hit on the gold. So in the short term, that's a bigger picture with Aussie. Should this thing break these stops over here, I think we're going to see quite a significant pullback underneath 63. At the moment, it is in context of this bounce, very strong, and it's just consolidating at the top here. So should it break up and go up over here, you're looking at 65.50 for the top side. Should you break down, I think you're going to be coming quite down back towards 60. I think that's a very much a possibility, particularly if we see DXY get a run, which we have seen. Because you got to think sort of like in these things in comparison, this is why Aussie could be at super danger because really, it's at the bottom of its trend. I mean, it's off the lows, yes, but where are we at the 38% or something? I haven't got it on this chart. 38% also, I think, is where the bounce is at of this big move down. And even as I sort of look at this thing now, here's your move up, you find resistance. Most likely, that's the course of action. And then you got to sort of think, okay, higher, low, and should be the road to going higher, opposed to that. But, it could be that let's just squeeze these people out down here and push it back up. So look, there's a couple of different scenarios, but certainly it's all predicated on the break of this range here. Call it a rounded top, call it whatever you want. I don't care. Doesn't make a difference. The thing is, it's in a consolidation, and you got pretty clear lines where this thing's going to break, in my opinion. I'd like to get long, but from these levels. If it does move through here, I'm just going to see what happens and just let it run. I'm not going to chase that at this stage because I think that US dollar is potentially going to get a bit of a push up. One's pushing it up, and RBA is looking to cut. And that's another thing as well. The RBA is looking to cut. So that's a handbrake on the Aussie. But as I said yesterday, if this is priced, if what they say is priced in, and it's up all the way up over here, well, that means that in the event that they don't cut, that could really explode because you got people sort of holding. This is even people holding off on it because they're going to cut, so it's not as much of a reason to buy it. But then it sort of moves. Just seeing that bounce on silver. They've got more of a reason for this thing to move up the top side here. So very frustrating, in and out trading, but I think these we're going to get a resolution soon, one way or the other, from top or the bottom. It does look very strong with the bounce back up, but equally it's being hit very hard up the top over here. So a very tough call at the moment with the Aussie. And I'll fly through these ones because this has ticked on a little bit for just a daily wrap. But this was the trade through with copper, and just to sort of break this one down, because somebody asked me about it, and I couldn't. They said, "Hey, send us a message," but you can't message on Twitter or something unless people are verified or some shit like that. I don't know, whatever. But the idea here was this was the call originally, as we were coming up through here the other day. So that was what, Friday. It's a Friday week. And basically, anyway, we were saying that, look, this is coming up here, lower high potential, breaking through the trend line. And this is the thing with these trend lines. I think once they're broken, you need to respect that. You need to go, okay, look, it's broken. Whether it sort of grinds back up like this, it's broken the trend and it's got to be punished. That's the way that the price is going to work. We've seen it move up, come down here. It's found support basically where we sort of marked it out previously. Okay, it's come down here. It's found a little bit of an area to bounce. I think this could probably still have another leg down here, to be honest. I think this is sort of just sort of like, okay, this is a target area. I took profit on this. I'm not going to be alone. You could certainly push back up here, but I think you've got to respect the idea that, we're in this leg here coming down now. Again, what leg are you in? That's the thing you've got to ask yourself. We're moving down, we found support, we're moving up, find resistance. This leg has to come because this leg is the vital leg. This is the leg that opens you up to be able to do that. High, low, bang, reversal, on with the show. Or is it going to go right back down to the bottom? Or that? I don't think this is going to happen, but just in structure there, your three options: high, low, double bottom, lower, low. So we're in this leg here at the moment. So most likely you're going to get this leg at some stage. It's just, is it going to come from here? Is it going to come from here? Is it going to come from here? And on we go with the flow. That's how the flow works with these things and the structure. So clean this up. So where we're at the moment with copper, obviously found a little bit of support. It's bouncing, it's chopping, it's moving up and down around here. We saw metals obviously are getting sort of hammered early this morning. DXY is testing at that sort of breakout level. I think if we get the breakout there on DXY, I think that is the window for this to sort of come back down lower. I think it's sort of move underneath 459, and then we maybe look towards 440. We have got a little bit of resistance, or previous resistance, up along here. This could be a level that we could be looking at, potentially. I don't think, never say never, but this was obviously a big breakout level, so you're going to get a reaction at this level down here, but more likely I'd be looking for a support level. So the difference between these two, because they'll both offer a reaction, is that when you're touching the top side of these things, generally you've got people sort of closing shorts, whatever, targeting, that kind of stuff. This is an actual level where they've started buying it up. So I think sort of 61% still the target for copper to potentially come down a little bit lower. But for the point of wherever they do, was sort of messing me, sort of like you can see with the structure, high low here, broke the trend, came back up here. This rejection up the top over here is really the key. And then you can see as it broke these levels, came down. As it really came down underneath this 4, 7, 9, whatever, this level over here, that's where it opened the door, and you can just see whack. And this is the point of stops. This is where people said, hey, look, you know what I mean? Because at this point up here, you were potentially still just in building a range. You know, low, high, low. Maybe it'd come back up to here for the high, but it didn't. And it went down here, and you can see that the market said, oh, shit, bang, and they got out of it very quickly. So very interesting trade there. Fly along, we've got so gold continue to push down here. So we've got China here. Look, I still think this has probably got a little bit of short-term rally in it. Something to this effect. It is obviously sort of in this downward trend. So should it break this and then move up here? Okay, you deal with that as that happens. But as you can see, it mainly grinds sideways. Levels down, grind sideways. Maybe move up and then move down. I'm not expecting much from this at this stage. Till we get a resolution with all the tariff stuff, I don't see this doing anything drastic. None of these kind of moves through here. Just more this gradual decline. All right, cool. That's it from me.